And we are live. Welcome to the Ready Row USA, a live stream and podcast connecting the rowing community. We are in our 97th episode. So we're going to be celebrating the 100th here in early December, right around the USRowing Convention. This is Charlotte Pierce. I'm the producer. And at Ready Row USA, we believe that collaboration is the new competition and that rowing changes lives. We're on a mission to connect and collaborate with the rowing community, from boathouses to masters, beginners, legends, vendors, and you. Our audience gets personal attention to their questions, comments, and episode suggestions. We always love those. And our sponsors and partners receive value that far exceeds their investment. We just make sure of that. So if you're considering a sponsorship, thank you, and you will get way more than you shell out, shall we say. We love rowing. We love talking about rowing, advocating for inclusion and diversity in the sport, and hanging out with rowers like our guest today, Linda Muri. And hi, Linda. We'll get to your fabulous resume in a second, but we would like to acknowledge the people who are listening and watching live. I hope there are some of you, and you'll pop in some questions. So we love the immediate the questions that we get during the live streams, and you can join the conversation on one of our past episodes. Since 2018, as I said, we've done 97 episodes and counting. And if you could do one thing after you listen to Linda's wonderful story about her work on the movie Heart of Champions, please subscribe on one of our social media channels or YouTube channel. And that really makes a difference in getting the podcast and live stream out, getting word out about it. All right. And we would like to now acknowledge our new sponsor, Sykes Rowing, Sykes USA. I bought one of their boats and they returned the favor by becoming a sponsor. We're really excited about it. It's an affordable boat. I can't tell the difference between the more expensive ones, but I really love it. It did. I fancied that it gave me some free speed, but if you are interested in these boats, contact Fabio Selvig at sykesusa.com. And they have joined our Customer Service Hall of Fame, along with Burnham Boat and Concept 2 and Nielsen Kellerman and a few others. Faster Masters has just joined us. And we're going to be putting up a page of the Customer Service Hall of Fame here at when we catch our breath from the head of the Charles, I guess. Here's Peter Kermond of Burnham Boat. He's a fabulous guy. He loves to talk about rowing, and he loves to actually, I was blown away by the customer service that Peter and his staff provided. So you can't go wrong with them. Now I would like to get to our exciting topic. Linda Muri is with us. She is our title of our episode is Linda Goes to Hollywood-ish. And she's director of, she runs Rocket Science Rowing and has a resume that's got about a mile long. But Linda, how are you doing? And did you survive the head of the Charles?
I'm doing great, Charlotte. Thanks for asking. And I did survive the head of the Charles. It was really great to see so many people to catch up, even though we didn't see each other, which is pretty over 3 days, right?
It's amazing. Like you go through that crowd and everybody looks familiar. Do you ever notice? But you might not know their names, or you might spot somebody that you do know their name. But tell us a little. We talked in 2019, and you had just wrapped up your consulting on this movie, which was then called Swing. Is that correct?
That's right. That's the timing exactly. We finished just before Thanksgiving, so the end of November of 2019, and it was called Swing, and that was the working title. But when it went out for distribution, it is the prerogative of the distribution company to change the name. And I think they felt like swing was great for rowing. And, as rowers, we kind of have an idea what that means. But looking at a broader audience, that was not going to probably not going to fly, not going to resonate with people who didn't know anything about rowing.
Yeah, it's like, is it a movie about, couples that are changing partners
Right.
But tell us, like, could you just tell us a little synopsis of the plot and when it's opening and then how you got involved and what you actually had to do? Did you have to make these actors into rowers? I mean, were they good?
Sure. Well,
questions like that. Yeah.
Yeah, it's opening October 29th, this Friday, in major rowing cities. I know it's opening in Boston and Philadelphia, I think Seattle, a few other places, and it's just now starting to show up if you're like Fandango or something like that. If you're looking for tickets, you can just start to find it. It's playing at the Night Theater in Hanover, New Hampshire, which I'm really quite pleased about. It's a coming of age story, which runs kind of parallel with the rowing story. It's about a rowing team in college at an Ivy League college. And it starts with kind of a disastrous performance at the national championship in one year. And then you follow the team for a lot of the guys, there's a men's team, their senior year in college, and a new coach comes in, and he's portrayed by Michael Shannon. He's a Vietnam veteran.
The guy that's on screen on the left there, if you're watching, is that the coach?
Yep, that's the coach right there, Coach Murphy, in the light gray, light blue jacket, and this is a stern moment with the team right here.
Looks like they're listening pretty hard, or they're a little bit crushed by what he's saying. Maybe I don't.
They are. He came in. He was meant to stir things up a little bit, and he's a outside the box kind of guy, and probably has his own demons and ghosts, and that shaped a lot of who his character was. And then there's a love story, human interest component that runs parallel to the whole rowing season, but there's quite a bit of rowing. I mean, it's about rowing, and the final part, it takes you through the championship race the following year.
And so something tells me there might be a happy ending, or are you allowed to say that?
We filmed a number of endings, and I'm not sure which one they used. And
I don't know which one they used.
Yep. I got a sneak preview of parts of the film, but I did not. I was on purpose, did not watch the ending so that I wouldn't know now. But it was pretty neat when we were filming that. Like, okay, here's this ending, and
I love it. That's good. So we have some pictures of if you're watching on the live stream, we have a picture of are those the actors there on the left on the dock?
On the dock, that's a couple of the actors. There's a young man bending over with a white cap, and there's another guy with his back to us, and those are LSU rowers who are helping us out. They have a club team, and they were invaluable to us. And then standing up in the dark shirt is Charles Melton, who's one of the stars of the movie. And then Devin Woodson is standing in the unisuit, sort of the furthest guy from the camera. And this was my chance to teach Charles how to row, because he came to us not really knowing much rowing. He'd had a couple of lessons, and he missed a lot of the rowing camp that I did before the movie filming actually started.
I see, yeah. And
then the other picture, the other half of that is me in the motorboat that I used for coaching. But this is during filming, because I can see the camera boat, one of the camera boats.
Oh, on the right there. Yeah. And if people are listening on the audio, I just wanted to mention that we'll put these images in the show notes. You'll have a link to them so you can see what the behind the scenes of Linda on the movie set.
So I spent most of the time for the filming in this same launch that we've got right here when we were on the water. And I did a lot of directing. I helped the crews when we had 6 lanes. We had a 6-lane buoyed course set up. And for filming any of the race scenes, I would be behind them. I had a radio. All of the coxswains had little headsets, which seemed, pretty normal. And that way I could make sure that, the boat that was representing Columbia did the right thing in this scene. And the boat, the Bellston, is the name of Bellston University, is the name of our protagonist institution and make sure that everything played out so that when we filmed it and there's a lot of takes and that sort of thing, that it would look the same and it would flow and they could piece things together.
And when I titled this episode, I said Linda Goes to Hollywood because you went to LA, but it was Louisiana, LA, not.
Yes. Every time I typed LA, people are like, "Oh, I'm going to come see you." I'm like, "Yeah, no, not that LA."
So exciting. So these guys, I mean, did they turn out to be good rowers, or were there body doubles on some of the scenes? Or
well, we spent the first week or so in rowing camp, and Voyen, who wrote the screenplay, was a rower at Columbia, and so he knew how collegiate rowing, Division I rowing worked, and his idea was to get the actors to bond like rowers on a team do by going through sort of the semi-traumatic type 2 fun that's spring break or winter training camp when you're rowing twice a day. So before filming started, we met up with almost all of the actors who would be in the film to make sure either the ones to make sure that they could row and to take them through. But he really was stressing this bonding effort that happens, this thing when you're on spring break and you're practicing twice a day. So we practiced twice a day, but most of the actors, the lead actors, did not know how to row. And I can say didn't really have as many lessons as maybe they thought they should have. One actor came in really great. He'd had a lot of lessons, took it very seriously. And the rest, Charles was filming something else, so he couldn't be there. Charles Melton couldn't be there for all of it. Some of them had other obligations. Again, this was before the movie started. So I could do whatever I wanted to in terms of make them carry the boat, carry oars. We did the 2-a-day practices.
Cool. Yeah.
It wasn't grueling. Most of it was really just teaching them, but there were a few rowers. There were a few guys, 4 guys that I was working with who had rowing experience either in college or high school. One I worked with at Bill Miller's rowing camp Northeast way back in the day. Another one rowed for Trinity. Another one had rowed at Orange Coast, and another one rowed on the Australian junior team. So we had some very high level down to 0 rowing experience.
Well, they all look pretty fit. I mean, that must have been a requirement for them.
They were all very fit. They were all they actually were spending time working out during our training camp because we weren't doing very much work, even though we're out on the water for an hour and a half a couple of times a day.
Yeah. And then did you would you film for an hour or a half hour and then stop and look at the footage, or how did that work?
Well, during our training camp, we would look at video like you would at a normal training camp. But for filming the movie, we had very limited days. They did this whole thing in about 40 days, which is insane. And we would start filming as soon as there was enough daylight, and then we would finish before we ran out of daylight. So it was when we were on the water filming, once production started, it was full days. We would be there at 5:30 in the morning, and we would be packing up around 6 and then go get dinner. And you started over again. You did that, 5 days in a row until it was time for a break in the schedule. And then if you're an actor that had other scenes, you were probably acting on some of the days that we were off from rowing. It was pretty grueling. I was surprised. That part really surprised me. I had no idea, to the extent of that.
So all done in Los Angeles, Louisiana, is that right? And
yes.
No traveling around, or
no, we did it all there. There were three different venues. The one where, actually a fourth one, we did use the little pond at LSU. I worked with Charles there, and I worked with Michael Shannon on that pond. We did the training on Lost River, and then anything that we did indoors, and the rowing tank was at a sound studio near Baton Rouge. And then we used a small, I don't know if it was a state park or something like that, but a facility that had some water, and through movie magic made it look like that's where their boathouse was, and that they could row a great distance. but that was most of the rowing. If it was distance, we filmed it out on Lost River instead. So we sort of stayed in those few places. And I think you had a picture of the indoors with a little, maybe, I don't know if the green screen was up.
Oh yeah, that's a little bit, that's the previous one. Yeah.
Yeah. So
what was filmed in the front of the green screen?
So that's where we did a lot of anything that had audio, any time that people are speaking, because if you've ever had a coach film,
right, of course,
all you hear is
I've tried to do clips for the podcast out on the water, and it's just crazy. It's not happening.
So yeah, this was a giant pool, and it was big enough for an 8 and a coach boat, a launch, and a single. And I'm actually standing in the water in this picture here for anybody who can
zoom
see
it up. Yeah. You're in the water?
But I'm only standing about an inch of water because there are platforms underneath, so you could get people out to the boat and get them in. And then they would get moved around, so then they could row. So you'd have to move the platforms out of the way. So you see a lot of the grips in the water doing things like that. And then the green screen, they went out and they took a lot of plates, a lot of pictures of the river where we were rowing, that Lost River. And then they would, this is more movie magic that happens after I was there. This is post our sort of in production. Yeah. And they put that on. So even when you're filming a green screen, all you see is the green. They're not projecting something up there while you're doing it. And there's little marks. They put pieces of tape or marks on the screen, so you knew where to look. Like the coach is there, so you have to focus on something like that.
Did it all go pretty well with that, or I guess they're professional actors, so
yeah, they were great about that. They all knew how to do that. It was a little, getting. We did have doubles, and we did have people representing other crews. There's a couple of scenes where there's a Harvard crew that's involved, and some of them had to come back down for some of the filming of their lines, and it took them a little bit longer. They weren't used to that, and how to make it sound like they were in the middle of a race, or that make it look like they're rowing in the middle of the race when the water is just still water. It wasn't flowing like in a rowing tank that anybody might train in if you've had that opportunity.
Yeah, got it. So so it opens Friday, but how did you you have this rocket science rowing where you advise and consult and travel and coach, and is it all rolled into rocket science rowing, or is that how did you contact, or how did you get involved in it?
I sort of stumbled into it a little bit. Chris Groot, who's a friend of mine, he's at PNRA, he's the executive director there, and he's also a referee. And that summer I was at trials. It was in 2019, and I had a crew, lightweight men's double, Nick Trojan and Andrew Campbell. And they had trials in the summer, and I'm chatting with Chris, and he's telling me about this project that he's going to be working on. But then funding and timing and things, and it just kept getting pushed out and pushed out. And eventually it got pushed out into the fall when Chris was going to be coaching, or at least there were things happening at Mercer that they just weren't going to be able to give the lake up for 4 or 5 weeks. And then they were able to get, different states have different rules, and Louisiana had an attractive package for filming, rebate. I don't know.
Right.
How that works.
Tax breaks. Yeah.
Right. And so it moved out, and then Chris wasn't going to be able to do it. And so he called me and asked if I would be interested. And then he spoke to the movie folks that he'd been talking to and set up a couple of phone interviews. This is pre-pandemic, pre-Zoom, pre-real Zoom. So we're just like regular phone calls and trying to figure out, is this going to work? And they wanted to film like during the head of the Charles. But then I said, you're not going to be able to find any athletes to help you, and there's no equipment. And so they pushed it out to, I think I left either Tuesday or Wednesday following the head of the Charles 2 years ago. So 2 years ago.
Right. And when we talked, it was coming up on release, wasn't it? or
we
then the
spoke
pandemic happened. Yeah.
Right. We spoke in December, and we were still pre-pandemic, and the goal was to have things, all the green screen stuff and all of that done and get it released in time to go to one of the film festivals like in Toronto or something in August,
right,
and then have a release sometime in the fall. And then, pandemic.
then
so
it just happened. Yeah. But are you optimistic, or are they optimistic about the release now? Is it pretty?
Oh, it's for sure. It's for sure.
I mean, I know it's for sure, but it just,
they got everything done. They got all of it. And even along the way, they had, things took longer, but they recorded sounds of boats and oars that they could lay into it. The sound of a rowing machine, an ergometer, so that they could put that into the sound, because they didn't want, again, you can't film over the sound of NERG.
That's
and all of that. And so every once in a while I'd get a call or a text or an email from them. Linda, what do you think about this? How do we do this? Because the whole thing, Charlotte, I was only supposed to be there for a week to run the rowing camp.
And is that right? That's how it started?
That's how it started. And then while I was there, and they're showing me this boat that they're going to use, and the film takes place in 1999. I'm like, that's a 2017 carbon fiber, everything. And it just won't fly for that and some of the other things. And they got through, and I just, even though again, the writer V had this background in rowing, he wasn't around all the time and couldn't be in every place at one time, even when he was there. And
so they sort of relied on you for that expertise. And
my producer Daniel said, we actually don't know as much about rowing as we thought we did. And you stay for a couple of weeks, and then a couple of weeks became that whole 5-week.
But nobody called it a canoe or a kayak, did they?
No, they didn't. We managed to skip that. Maybe some of catering did, or
right.
All the people involved in rowing and filming were really good about it.
Listen, we have some questions, and I know you have some from your friend or your contacts. But Beth Knoll, who's she's with the Para Rowing Foundation and is believe the head coach at for Para at Community Rowing.
I think so. Hi, Beth.
Hi, Beth. And she's remarking how interesting it is to hear how the magic is made, and it really is. I mean, you go see a movie and you don't know all this stuff that goes behind it.
I can't look at a movie or even
the same
way. I'm like, I know they must have had 5 cameras and they had to do that so many times. And when someone just walks by a camera and there's someone in the background, you've got to make sure it's exactly the same. It's crazy. It was crazy.
Exactly. Yeah. And Lily was saying Bill Miller. Now, what was his role?
Bill, it was just because one of the actors had gone to Northeast, sitting there at one point, and Spencer said to me, so did you ever coach at Northeast? And I said, I did, and it turns out I was his coach while we were there. So that was the only very minor Bill Miller connection.
That's so cool. Yeah. Well, we do have quite a few people watching, and I think your account is really exciting. It just gives you the behind the scenes. But did you have some questions from your contacts?
The question that I had was, did the actors have to actually learn how to row? And they did. That was my goal, was to be able to get them to row all 8 in a week and have it look credible. Everything was having it look credible, so that when rowers looked at it, it would look okay. And we did have doubles for a lot of the people, so that helped with some of the scenes. But there's definitely scenes at the start where you see them all pulling on an oar, or they're rowing in the tanks, and they still had to know what they were doing. So I'm not sure that they could go out in singles. But if I had another week or so, I think they would have done really well.
Well, hopefully. I mean, we're all about, a lot of us are interested in growing the sport and promoting rowing, and I hope it does that. I hope this is successful and it gets more awareness out there.
The rowing should look better than a lot of the films that are already out there, I would say.
Well, anything else to say about the experience, or would you do it again?
Oh, I'd absolutely do it again. It was. They did say it was a very special group to get to work with, but if you go, there's that photo you've got of the cameras where you can see the screen as they're filming. I had really full access to everybody who was working on the film. That I could go up to the director, Michael Mailer, and say something to him, and they would let me, like, here, this is a picture that I took. I'm leaning in and I'm watching. I can see what they're filming as they did, and if someone took a whiff stroke in the tanks, I could say to Ed, "We've got to do that one again because that's just not going to look right." So that was pretty remarkable to do that. A couple of the assistant directors, they referred to me as coach all the time. That's all they ever called me. And they're like, "No, we can't start this, coach. Line them up so that they're in order, so they go in the right place." You
don't want one scene with the one order and another scene with another order, right?
Yep. And then keeping track, so there were times where there's always someone who's keeping track of the script, but I got to keep track of which scene it was, what time of year, what the lineup was in the boat at that time, because the boat lineup changes, if you notice, from the first race through the middle of the season, through the final race at the championships. There are a number of different lineups, different riggings. We had port stroke, we had starboard stroke. And so, again, keeping those things straight. Costuming, they had to make sure they had the right outfit on for, the right race, they're wearing the right thing for this race or that practice. And there's just a lot that goes into it, but I would absolutely do it again. And, there's a couple of films that sounds like they're in the works, and I'm ready to jump right in and help them.
Keep us posted. I mean, this is just like, we cover a lot of different topics in the podcast, but it's, this is something new and different kind of, and I think we're going to be doing a book episode about rowing books in the winter when people are getting off their ergs and reading books about rowing. So that'll be one.
Yeah, that'll be good. There's one YouTube video that is a behind the scenes. And that, I think, if anybody watches that, at least in the first 10 minutes or so, the actors behind the scenes is a real thing. All these movies have that generated while they're going. And so there's a lot of stills and photos being taken. I have photos of me with the cast and this sort of thing. But this video is about 15 minutes long. Some of it is kind of promotional. The actors are talking about the film. But there's about 5 or 6 minutes in the middle of it where all of the actors are being interviewed about being at rowing camp. What does rowing camp mean to you? And that's one of my favorite things is to look at that. And
so just searching YouTube for Heart of Champions.
Yeah, it should be searchable. Jake Jalbert is the one who did it, and I'm not
tell you what, I'll put the link in the show notes. So everything else and anything else you want to add to the show notes, I'm happy to do that too.
Okay. So yeah, I think that's about it. But it's great to see a lot of the athletes who filled in the different boats were from Riverside Boat Club. We had a lot from Michigan, from the men's program there. A few LSU did a lot, and then some pockets of rowers. But we had 54, at least 54 rowers that were helping in addition to all of the actors. It was an enormous project, but
wow.
And so I'm super excited for this weekend.
Yeah, and then you'll finally know how it ends.
I'll know how it ends.
All right. Well, let me close out here. If you want to stay on and answer any more questions, you're welcome to do that. Or you might want to.
If there's questions, I'm happy to answer them. The only other question I had was my coxswain from this weekend asking me who my favorite coxswain was of all time. So
yeah, who would that be, Linda?
Who would that be?
Coxswain is worth their weight in gold. As you see when you watch the Head of the Charles.
Right, that's right. We were very happy to have Amanda taking us up the course.
Indeed. Well, listen, we are about at the end of this session, and we will be our next Our next episode will be a preview of the USRowing Convention with Samantha and Sarah from the office there, and we'll preview all the great programming that they have coming up at the USRowing Convention, and then we'll be doing our 100th episode in early December, probably with Jim Dietz and Mark Wilson and a bunch of those folks. But Pierce Press is my company. I'm publishing a new book, or this is the Who's Hiding in This Book is the most recent children's book we've done. We have a new edition, a new book in the series of the mystical, magical, abracadabrical Daniel McDougall McDouglas McFly. And I won't make you say that 5 times, Linda. But
not even once.
Not even once. It took me a while. It took me a couple of years to get that down. But and we also, please visit our new website, readyrowusa.com, and send us your rowing news about your club. We love to do club spotlights. Doesn't matter how small your club is or how big it is, or if it's a waterside club or has a posh boathouse. We want to just kind of illuminate what you're doing and visit you all around the country at the rowing clubs. We're running a Gadgets and Gear episode in November. So what's your favorite gadget, Linda? Rowing gadget?
My rigger jigger, my 1013 wrench.
Oh, the wrench. Yes.
That's a good one. Although
it's 10 and 13.
10 on one and 13 on the other. The other good one though is the new Bob Beeman gadget from Concept 2 with for oar adjusting, and it's shaped like a plus sign, and you get great leverage. So that would be my new favorite.
I'm going to put that in the Gadgets and Gear special then. Anyway, thank you so much for coming on, and we are going to be following the movie and your career, and I'll put your illustrious part of as much as I can fit in the show notes. I'll put, Linda, you are legendary, and we really appreciate you coming on.
Oh, thanks for having me, Charlotte. My pleasure. Great to see you finally. Okay.
Likewise. Yeah. See you soon.
Okay. Bye.
Bye.